receiver in this league, and he had an opportunity to make a play. And when you get both hands on the football, you got to catch the football.
He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365.
Oh, we don't have to go to break. We can bring Sal right up. Xander says no need to break. So let's
to break here. Since we got Sal Capaccio joining us, then he's got to get up for his show on WGR in Buffalo, but he will be here in Philadelphia on Sunday to work the sidelines for the Bills Radio Network. Sal, Jody Mac, and Johnny Mac here. How you doing, bud?
Mac and Mac, I love it. I mean, good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here, Sal. It's an interesting. I was just talking about the Bills, so you got to explain this to me, because we all know Buffalo's a very, very talented team. It hasn't gone the way that they would have liked to this point, but I just look at the pure numbers and I say, well, they got a top 10 defense, they got a top 10 offense. Why has that not translated into the typical Bills record we all expect?
Well, let's start with the defense, because I think that they are a still very talented defense, but they're way, way depleted. One of the things that's happened here, guys, you go back to week 5, Bills are in London. They lose Matt Milano for the year. Week before that, they lose Tre'Davious White for the year. Same week 5, they lose Daquan Jones. They've literally lost maybe arguably their best player at all 3 levels for the season, and they've been out for a good 6-7 weeks. It's been tough to replace them. That said, the defense has played much better the last few weeks. I think it's taken some time on task to get some of these guys who are normally backups to kind of fill some roles. They've done a really nice job. In fact, against the Cincinnati Bengals, they did everything they could, held the Bengals to 3 points in the second half, hanging on for dear life. Against the Broncos, they were on short fields all the time. Same thing basically happened. So you look at some of the numbers on defense, it doesn't necessarily look great because of that stretch specifically, but I'm not trying to make excuses. I mean, no team in this league can withstand the kind of injuries I think the Bills have had on the defensive side and still maintain an elite level, but they are still a good defense. On the offensive side, I'm going to sound like an old school cliche football coach. I understand that, but I'm just going to tell you, they've turned the ball over. I mean, they move the ball and then they turn it over. They make critical mistakes, and it's not just on Josh Allen. First play of the game against the Broncos, fumble on Monday Night Football. They get into the red zone against Cincinnati Bengals. They're ready to maybe score, make it a 1-score game in the third quarter. Rookie Dalton Kincaid fumbles the football. They've turned the ball over. They literally have one of the best defenses in the league as far as metrics, analytics, yards, things like that. And then they make a critical mistake, and that's really what's hurt them.
Josh Allen has been this type of quarterback his entire career. High highs, low lows. Turns the ball over, makes huge plays, both throwing it and running it. I thought that we'd see a maturation over time of Josh Allen, and the truth is, this year's Josh Allen is a lot. I cut him some rookie slack because I cut every rookie some slack. But year 2 Josh Allen is compared to this year's Josh Allen. If you're a Bills fan, you just got to accept it, ride with the high highs and deal with the low lows.
Well, first of all, Jody, I'll say, and this isn't on you necessarily, everybody does this. Josh Allen actually has matured quite a bit on what he's been able to do. I think if you look at the numbers, the interceptions, yes, they're there. I would tell you at least half the interceptions are clearly not on Josh Allen this year. He hits Gabe Davis right in the hands against the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football. It's tipped up in the air. It's an interception. That's not on Josh Allen. Now, a couple times I would say there were a couple times where, like in the London game, where he's like, hey, it's 3rd and 20. I'm just going to try and give my guy a play down the field. Those turned into interceptions. So I think when most people outside of Buffalo look at the numbers, oh my God, Josh Allen, turnover machine. The fact is, go through every interception. I would say Josh is maybe responsible for about 6 interceptions this year.
How about the fumbles, Sal?
I don't know how
we give him a pass on those.
No, not necessarily a pass. He's got to be better taking care of the ball, but I don't know what the fumble numbers exactly are. But let's remember, every single fumble that's an exchange basically goes on the quarterback. We always know that. But yeah. Josh has also put the ball on the ground too much in his career, and I don't think this year's been as much. Remember, 2 weeks ago, James Cook fumbled the first play of the game. There was a bad exchange with James Cook. James Cook fumbled later in the game as well. He had 3 fumbles himself. There's been a few of those, but look at Josh's numbers. He's still up there. And actually, this is the best year he's having completion percentage wise. He's taking what the defense gives him. He's efficient. He's still in the top 5 in passing yardage. I think there's this natural reaction to he's Josh Allen. He's all over the place. Like you said, highs, lows, interceptions. I would implore people to actually watch the interceptions he's had this year. They're not really a lot of them on him. Now, there have been horrible decisions he's made. There's no doubt. first play against the New England Patriots, he made a bad throw, bad decision, gets picked. He had 3 interceptions opening night against the Jets. 2 of them he probably shouldn't have thrown, but he launched it down the field, and then one of them was a bad throw on him. I'm not absolving him of all of them. There's no doubt about it. I just think it's the thing we do with Josh Allen because he's Josh Allen, when the truth is he's actually had a really good year this year. And there have been times where him and the rest of the offense have made a critical mistake at a critical juncture.
Sal, what's going on with Stefon Diggs? We all know how good he is as a receiver, one of the best route runners in this league. He left Minnesota for a reason. Yeah, he's, a typical diva, I think would be a proper term. We've heard that throughout the NFL. Am I being unfair to Stefon Diggs?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything this year that's gone on to give you that indication, except that he's just the kind of a guy that wears the emotions on his sleeve. And he's been a great player, great teammate. He's up near the top in the league and receiving, targets, catches, yards. He talks to us every week. He keeps telling people, I don't know why people say these things to me. I keep telling you how much I love being here and love Josh Allen. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything specific that he's done this year that, gets you there.
Lately, he's not responsible for his brother, but his
Correct.
brother said what he said, and he tried to diffuse it as best as possible.
Which is not on him, like you said.
Yeah. When you talk about occasionally, if he doesn't get the football, you see the angst.
That's not really what's happened, though. He does not do that when he doesn't get the football. He does it when they lose. And I'll give you a great example. They've had games where he was not. He was throwing the ball 4 times last week. I mean, he caught 4 passes. They won. They scored 32 points. He didn't say a thing. I mean, this is, the guy wants to win. Against the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago, Gabe Davis had 4 touchdowns. Stefon Diggs had 2 catches the whole game. He said, look, my teammate got 4 touchdowns because they were double covering me. I mean, it was great. So I just think there's a narrative out there again that, from the outside looking in, it's just not. Now, look, I will tell you that Stefon, he can be different sometimes. There's no doubt. And he plays a position where a lot of times that gets attached to you. I agree with you. But there's been nothing at all this year ever since what happened in minicamp and him not showing up. And there was a to-do about that. Ever since he came to training camp, Stefon's been a great teammate. He's a captain on the Buffalo Bills. He was voted by his team, and hasn't done anything, I think, to give any indication that he's, having any sort of issue with anyone.
So I got a Diggs question for you. How much should we expect him in the slot this Sunday? Because Buffalo does like to move their wide receivers around. I think it's advantageous. You don't know where the guy's going to be coming at you. You can't necessarily match up against them the way you would like to lock something in. How much do they use Diggs out of the slot? Because the Eagles are hoping that their return from injury guy, Bradley Roby, had one phenomenal play and one fairly bad play this past week against Kansas City, is going to be matched up against him. How much are we going to see Diggs in the slot?
Not that much, but probably a little bit more now that Joe Brady's calling plays. I think Joe's been, first week where Joe was the play caller, the Bills made a change in offensive coordinators, guys know, and he used a little bit more motion, hit guys in different spots. But the guy in the slot for the Buffalo Bills is their tight end, Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid is really more of a slot receiver than he is a tight end. And, they drafted him to have this 12 personnel. Dawson Knox has been out, but Dalton Kincaid is having a phenomenal year.
Is Knox going to be back this week, by the way?
He will not. He is eligible to come back, but he's not practicing. Okay. It's funny, and I hate saying this because it sounds like bad. Dawson Knox is a really good football player, but it's actually forced the Bills to go back to their 11 personnel and use one tight end, and they've been better that way. I think the Bills are better when they have one tight end in the field than they have 2, even though the Bills want to run 2 a lot to give matchups. But Dalton Kincaid's been really, really, really good, and him and Sam Laporta are having tremendous years as rookie tight ends, but especially lately, he's averaging, I think, 5 or 6 catches a game over the last several weeks, and that's the guy in the slot that And I know the Eagles have had some numbers where they're not great against tight ends this year. I would think that's the matchup the Bills might look at, especially putting Dalton in the slot. Stefon will play there once in a while. Khalil Shakir had the big 81-yard touchdown last week as well. He also plays the slot.
Sal, you mentioned the ship to Joe Brady at offensive coordinator. Typically, when you make those kind of moves in season, it's never a good sign. I don't think you see the same thing in Pittsburgh. Where are we with Sean McDermott in Buffalo? Obviously, tremendous head coach, tremendous success, but everybody's got a shelf life. If you don't get over the top, we start seeing those coordinator moves in changes, whether you want to call it scapegoat or not, could be the first sign of something down the road. Where's Sean McDermott as far as his job security if the Bills don't make the playoffs?
Well, I think it depends if you talk to fans or the ownership, right? In which way you look at it. Fans are itchy right now. The Bills have not gotten to their ultimate goal, and they've been close, and it hasn't happened. And there's been times where, like the 13 seconds against Kansas City a few years ago, when they had the game won basically and lost it with 13 seconds left in overtime in the playoffs. And then a couple of weeks ago, 12 men on the field at the end of the game. There's been things that fans are very quick to point to that have been critical mistakes in games. They also know, and I would tell you, and I'm one of these people, tell you, hey, 17 years of no playoffs. This guy comes in and the Bills are perennial contenders now. I mean, I think he's a tremendous head coach. But that said, what really matters is what ownership thinks. And Terry Pegula, I don't think has any interest in moving on from Sean McDermott. And Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, what they've done for this organization since they've been here is tremendous. They just both got contract extensions before the season started. Now, that said, it doesn't mean you can't move on if something happens. I think it would really take some sort of falling out, disagreement. I mean, if the Bills don't make the playoffs this year, it's of course a tremendous disappointment. But I think there's been enough goodwill and tremendous seasons leading up to this that have built up, that have allowed for not necessarily a pass, put it that way, but for the Bills to say, look, I mean, we're not going to make any rash changes right now. As far as the offensive coordinator change, as we said earlier, the numbers are there. They're making crucial mistakes. And Sean talked a lot about culture and subculture and energy and confidence. And I just think they needed an infusion of that, with the offense as well. And Joe Brady's a lot different than Ken Dorsey, his personality. I think Sean felt that was, the way they needed to go. They have not, they've only scored 20.5 points a game before last week over the last 6 weeks. And that's not good enough for this offense. But as far as his job security, I don't personally think that Sean McDermott has anything to worry about his job security. And I don't think he's making changes to his staff because he's worried about his job security. He's 3 years left on his deal. He has a great relationship with ownership. He's done a great job for this organization. So I don't think that's why he makes a move like that.
All right. Where is Vaughn Miller at? The Bills have a very good defensive end pass rushing rotation, maybe one of the best in the league. And Vaughn Miller is giving him next to nothing this year. He's had some injury issues, but where's he at right now?
Well, he hasn't had an injury this year, but he is coming back from the ACL from last year. And, he didn't get on the field until week 5, I think it was, maybe week 6. But either way, he's not playing a whole complement of snaps. And to answer your question, Jody, he's not where he needs to be. You need to have more production from Von Miller. He's not even registered a tackle yet. Now, that said, he's come close to making an impactful play. He's been very close to kind of getting to where he needs to, I think, getting to the quarterback. But it hasn't happened yet. The Bills need to see that. They do have a very good defensive line rotation with Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa. Leonard Floyd's having a tremendous year, 9.5 sacks. But they need more production from Von Miller. I would tell you this. He's mentioned a few times how he has to wear the big knee brace for a whole year. That year is now, like Thanksgiving week. So I wonder if he sheds it this week. And I wonder if that's more of even a mental thing, that he feels like he can play a little bit more at his speed without having that on. But they need more production from him.
So if I asked you, and besides the obvious, which we all know how talented Josh Allen is, so I'm going to take the quarterback off the table. But if I said, what's the biggest strength of the Bills, the biggest weakness, which way are you going on each of those categories?
Are we talking the entire roster?
Entire roster, yeah.
The biggest strength is defensive line that we just talked about. Even without Von Miller and his production, the Bills are one of the top teams in the league at getting after the quarterback. They have a tremendous defensive line. They have great rotation. Ed Oliver's having, to me, an all-pro year.
Love Ed Oliver.
He's having the best year of his career. They did lose Daquan Jones, which is a huge loss. They signed Linval Joseph, who you guys know very well. Yes. Same thing happened last year when he went to Philly late in the year. He's come to Buffalo late in the year, and he's done a really good job. Like I said, Leonard Floyd, 9.5 sacks. So the biggest strength of this Buffalo Bills team is its defensive line, its ability to get after the quarterback, put pressure on the quarterback. And they need that with their banged-up secondary, although I think the secondary's played well. Another guy that well, Russell Douglas has done a great job since coming over in the trade deadline, from the Green Bay Packers. And that was a great pickup for the Bills. Weakness-wise, they need more out of their wide receiver group outside of Stefon Diggs. Number 2 receiver, Gabe Davis, it's number 2 on paper, but he's not putting up the kind of numbers of production. Now, Gabe does a lot of things really well for this team. He blocks really well. He can't, he can still put up numbers in a game. You've seen some games where 3 catches for 80-something yards and a touchdown. Those things happen. They need more production outside of just Stefon Diggs. And, we talk about Stefon Diggs. He's not getting the ball. He always gets the ball. He was targeted 16 times one game. I mean, I think he leads the league or he's top 3 in targets because they have to have him get the ball.
I do want to run this one by you before we let you go. No, you got a show coming up. So last question for me. There was rumors before the season started that the Buffalo Bills could be interested in a running back to be added to his brother's position on the Buffalo Bills. And I just never, I go, well, they got Jay, but they're not going to bring in another White to compete with his brother in the backfield. James White's had a damn good year for this team.
James Cook.
James Cook.
What did I say? I said White. I'm thinking Tre'Davious White. My bad. Thank you for the correction.
No problem. No problem. I think James White was a pretty good running back too, like in college. And
very good running back.
But he flowed too many cooks, spoiled the broth, if you can forgive my attempt at humor. How good has Cook been? The numbers say great. He's averaging more yards per carry than DeAndre Swift. I think there's 2 yards between them. I think Swift is like 4th in the league and the Cook is 5th in the league. How key a part of the offense has he been for the year? And how key do you think he's going to be against the Eagles? Because the Eagles did get run on a little bit by Pacheco last week. They've been the best in football all year long, but the Chiefs did find a way to run against them. How much is Swift a part of the offense in Sunday's game?
Yeah, I was a little surprised by, some of the success that Pacheco had because you look at the Eagles defense and they've been so good against the run this year. He's a really, really important player for the Bills and he's having a tremendous year. He's over 5 yards a carry. That's 7th in the league right now. And I think that's now the 2nd or 3rd in running backs. So he's having a great year, but where he might even matter more is in the passing game, Jody. I mean, this guy catches the ball. He plays like a wide receiver sometimes with the ability to catch the ball and the mismatches that you can have with James Cook. Listen, you're like me. It had nothing to do with his brother. The Bills were never going to add a player like that to their running back roster trying to compete. I don't know why. There's death taxes and people thinking the Bills are interested in a running back, whether it's draft or free agency. That's just the way of life sometimes. I have no idea. Now, they did add Leonard Fournette a few weeks ago. He's on their practice squad, and people are wondering when he's going to get an opportunity, to be elevated. But that's going to be more for specialty situations. They have Latavius Murray. And then Ty Johnson last week broke out a little bit. I think that's a guy you have to watch out for, too, in the passing game. But to answer your question about James Cook, he's having a tremendous year, but it gets overshadowed because of Josh Allen and, the rest of the offense and the way they operate. But he did have 2 fumbles last week. The other one was more of an exchange with him and Josh. That's something that he's got to clean up. Sean McDermott, he doesn't tolerate that, especially from young players. He fumbles the first play of the game. He doesn't play for about a quarter and a half, and he still has over 120 yards rushing.
All right, Sal, we're going to let you run because we know you got your show to do. Quickly, though.
Yeah.
Prior to bringing you on, I said you're the Howard Askin of the Buffalo Bills. Don't know how well you know Howard or if you got a relationship with Howard. Do you take offense to that statement or do you take pride in that statement if I compare you to Howard Askin?
I love it. I've met Howard a few times. He's been on my radio show.
Do you have a fur coat, though, Sal? You're in Buffalo.
I do not own a fur coat. If I did that, people would think I'm trying to be like Van Miller, and we can't do that. Van Miller's a legend play-by-play guy. He passed away several years ago, but Van was known to be the fur coat guy on the radio broadcast, so I can't do that. But Howard is a great human being. I think, he's just a wealth of knowledge. I've loved having him. Our PR director here with the Buffalo Bills that we deal with. Derek Boyko. Derek was in Philly for many years. And I know Derek has a great relationship with Howard and he speaks so highly of him. Yeah, he's the one that kind of
joking, Howard.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I love Howard. He does a great job, and we've shared some great stories from the sidelines.
At Sal Sports, I want to mention. So get your Bills intel from Sal on X, Twitter, whatever you like to call it these days. And thanks, Sal. Thanks for stopping by. Dropping knowledge on a very good football team that I think people don't realize they're still really, really talented, which I mentioned earlier.
They are. But so are the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, quick shout out. So, big tie in here. Nick Sirianni from Buffalo, from Jamestown. His family. I'm friends with the family. Jay Sirianni and their brother. Their dad. Life legendary football people here in Western New York. So it's just nice to see from our vantage point here in Buffalo. We root for local people, and nice to see Nick and his success. And it's great. His brother Jay is a great friend of mine, so it's really cool.
But this week, Screw
Not this
Sirianni.
week.
He's,
Not
yeah,
this week.
he's out
That's
this week, but we'll
That's
root
right.
for you afterwards, Coach. Sal, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on board. Thank you very much. Have a good show today. Enjoy yourself down on the field on Sunday.
All right, you got it, guys. Thank you very much. Happy belated Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Sal Capaccio, sideline reporter and host for WGR, the Bills radio network up there in northern, western New York. Yeah, Sirianni. They love Sirianni. Not surprised they love Sirianni. He's a western New York kind of guy. Not this week, he's not. He's a eastern Pennsylvania guy.
No, he's a Philly guy now. Nick's a Philly guy now. Yeah, Philly guy that likes
he likes to make
Pirates
reference to his former life in New York.
Oh yeah, he always talks about his brothers in Jamestown. Yeah, big part of his story.
All right, let's take a quickie timeout. We still got plenty to do here on Birds 365. We thank Sal Capaccio for hopping on with us, giving us a little Bills perspective. Johnny Mack and I will come back and talk some Bills Eagles next here on Birds 365.